Let's see. My name is Bob Williamson. Um, I'm a member of First Parish in Brookline since probably 1993, probably right around there. And my wife Carol is also a member, and my daughter Meredith is also a member of First Parish. Um, I've been involved in many things over the years, primarily having to do with the facilities because of my background in architecture, construction, and project management. And I've also been a member of the church choir for many, many years and love it, especially under Keith Kirchhoff's remarkable leadership. And I've served my time on the board and as chair of the parish board. It's wrapped up in 2021, and that's that's enough background, I guess.
Sounds
I'm
good.
current. I'm currently teaching the Our Whole Lives program. The church, when I joined, was a very homogeneous group of Brookline folk who uh, had settled into established patterns of worship and festivities, festivals, and who did what. It was very much. It was a small church, or what they call a pastoral church. Definition of pastoral church is a church where everybody knows everything and does everything. It's as opposed to a program church where the administration does, the business of the church, and the the members can select from a variety of services that the church offers. So it's been I've been here in an eventful time of change. Uh, we've learned a lot over the years about how to be with one another, how to be in right relations. And that's been very helpful as we've addressed some difficult issues over the years. At Upon David Johnson's retirement, there was a lot of conversation about the selling of the parish house. That was the tradition was in when the church was established that the congregation provided the minister with a residence as part of their compensation. And at that time, which was in the probably in the early aughts, the decisions around how the church did things was in became partly tumultuous. And the first issue that set us off was a decision on whether the ministers that we were going to ask to interview, whether we had to say that they were required to reside in the parsonage or not, because the sole justification for keeping a large house with a lot of expenses that was basically unmaintained. Anyway, that was a very difficult decision, and when the new ministers came, we really learned how to make decisions together, and without feeling as though we were going to, however, whatever decision we made, we would still be bound to one another as a community. So that was an important lesson for me. We called co-ministers, and they were a real jolt to the community. and meaning in a positive way. And the church experienced a great deal of growth. The folks who had sort of run everything during the interim ministry after David Johnson discovered that the congregation didn't really want them to do that anymore, and they left. And the church there became much more. We became better decision makers, and began to think about how we were going to incorporate our values, the Unitarian Universalist values, into our practices, both at church and outside. And I think it was at that time that we had a lot of families with young adopted children, a lot of same-sex couples, and it began to shift. The church began to think that it might become that's the word I just used, pastoral and anyway, the other form of church, the larger church, with a proper administration. So 5 or 6 years later, one of the ministers left due to age, I think, and disagreement with her co-minister, and a number of sort of factors tumbled along during that time, in which we tried to make decisions collectively, and yet there was still a sense that there was disagreement over and suspicion. So I think we've sort of fallen back into a little bit more of that. The attitude says, well, who made that decision? And I'm not sure I agree with that. We've just entered this next period of interim ministry with Reverend Joe, feeling a little chastened, I feel, and that we just need to, we're a small church again. And so it's really going to be interesting to me. I'm an optimist, and I think from this we will actually have a proper interim experience, and can formulate with each other what our vision is for the future. I think we're in a better place to do that now. So I'm looking forward to the future. I'm at the age approaching 80 where my sense of belonging in leadership positions is ebbing away. I'm pulling myself away from certain responsibilities that I'd taken on, and while that's not in response to the changes in the church, it's something that all churches go through when their generations age into their elderhood, and are no longer the drivers of the church, but just the participants in church life. For me personally, the church was a godsend, because I didn't fully understand how I was inexperienced in the matter of emotional, both myself and others, emotional issues. And I think in the community which church offers, of fellowship of other people who are either like you or interested in you, you have a chance to make, I've made very, very close friends through church. And it's just been an experience that I'm so glad was part of my life, because it changed my behavior in many important ways over the course of my membership here. So as tumultuous as the story may be, my own, I wouldn't have changed anything. I think for me, the experience has been excellent. I might have wished it otherwise, but I'm not seeing the smoke. I'm seeing, I'm feeling the love that I've acquired, if you will, through membership in the church. I want it to be a place that people who are in their 30s and 40s can find the same um, com community of faith, a community of interests, community of commitment that I did when I joined. Uh, my hope for the future is that it can change and adapt to today's needs and to today's environment, which has changed just enormously over the last 5 years for sure, and was actually underway even before that. So here we are, instead of an environment where, this two-parent, multiple child families were the norm, and there was plenty of sort of time and energy to give to the church from when I started, and now we're families are consumed by work and have just are very limited in what they can do outside of their just their the things that are that life demands of them. The attention to their children's growth and safety, doing meaningful work to the standards that are that they expect of themselves, and committing in some form to the betterment of the world. And it used to be church sort of could provide all those things, but it's not. It's no longer, the old model is no longer sustainable. So I hope we make a decision in this interim that will make that in which we take steps to be the church for the future, for future generations. I mean, it's been wonderful to me. I want to leave it in a position to be wonderful to people who are young, who are looking for the kind of solace and companionship that church offers. Sure. The first one that jumps into my mind as you were asking the question was is illustrative of the sort of learning that church offers. I was standing, this was not, maybe, it was actually probably 12 years ago, maybe 15. And I was standing outside the lower entrance with another member and the then director, RE director at that time. And the conversation turned to Meredith, and the comments were, and mine included, were, well, Meredith is just so open and generous and present that people at church just really feel connected to her in ways that deeply connected. And the DRE at that time said to me, well, that's her ministry. And that was the first time that I thought of ministry as a lay activity. You know what I mean? Where ministry in my mind and in my history was embodied in the minister, right? But that comment made me reflect on all the activity that and all the things that each of us as individuals have given to the church and give to each other, and to put it in the context of ministry, just it really opened up my view of how to see your impact on others, and to channel your own activities as if they were a ministry. that you can bring to others, not in a sense of teaching necessarily, or even spirituality, but just as a form of connecting and caring and making the moment in which you are, that you may contribute to that moment as a form of ministry to others. So that's a real church experience for me. I like that story.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful and an interesting interpretation of what ministry means.
Yeah, well, I believe it. I think it's sort of surprising to put ministry in the context of a conversation between you and me, right? And to think about what your ministry, Lucas, might be, or mine. But it was clear that in that way, we were all responsible to each other. And so it really tied into the covenant that we give ourselves one unto another, covenanting to walk together. It ties it together for me. The idea of ministry as a personal act.
Yeah, thanks. Uh, all right, this one's a little broader, so you can kind of take a couple seconds if you need. What does being Unitarian Universalist mean to you?
Mm. To me, it's a context and a framework for expressing my spirituality when I'm not um, a a person who can attach themselves to a creedal faith where the truth is unchanged. Um, I can't say I'm a theological expert, but I find the precepts of Unitarian Universalism to be completely, aligned with my values. And I think it's being a Unitarian Universalist to me means paying attention to my behavior and the behavior of others in the context of how we treat one another, in the context of how we treat the earth. As opposed to whether they're good Christians or not, or prayerful Muslims. Um, each of those can be very powerful drivers of excellent behavior and concerns. I just don't. I am of the nature that I cannot accept uh, dogma, and because my life has been a living and changing experience, and I expect the same of my faith. And I just think that Unitarian Universalism gives me a framework in which to express my spirituality. I tell people, I said, yes, I go to church, I go to Unitarian Universalist, and there's some folks know what that means. Some folks have attended. Many just sort of scratch their heads. Oh, is that a Christian church? No, no, but you can be a Christian and join it. And it's a little confusing for folks who think of religion as a sort of a mantle you take on and a guide you commit to. Uh, that's So I think of Unitarian Universalism that way. And I like the way they challenge. I like the way Unitarian Universalists, as nationally, as a sort of challenge assumptions, stand up for what I think are the right causes, and uh, continually think about the effectiveness and the correctness and and whether they're adequately, we as a both as a congregation as a faith are living up to our values. I'm actually really interested in how the new approach to what's the rewriting of the UU bylaws. I don't know whether you've heard about this conversation. I know little about it except that the 7 principles, which have been part of the bylaws, are going to be replaced by statements of covenant. In other words, instead of putting abstract principles in place, these will be more concrete promises that we make to one another as Unitarian Universalists and to the world. And I like that. I like the idea of covenant. It's a great place to start when thinking about relationships and groups. It's really it puts more precious sacredness on the understanding of relationships, I think. So I'm happy to have found it. The principle that applies most frequently to my thinking and acting is caring for the living earth. It's I think the 7th principle, and it's really consistent with my interests in learning about how to better live with the abundance of earth as a partner rather than as something to extract or a commodity. So I think that's where my interests lie today. There is sort of an almost intractable issue around the use of the endowment that just needs to be figured out and agreed upon. It was established to support the building in the mid 20th century and contributed to in the 20th century and a little bit I don't think anything has been contributed in the 21st century, but the church has been living beyond its means because it has an endowment and has been paying for a lot of operational expenses by basically overdrawing on the endowment. And so my hope is for this year that we can agree on a path forward on the important questions of whether we're going to keep maintaining the building or whether we're going to basically abandon it, and because of our financial concerns. And I don't love the building, but I feel a responsibility towards it, and to have it sacrificed because we can't seem to pay for our own way in an operating perspective, the way most churches do, without relying on an endowment for their operating expenses, salaries, and so forth. That's what's been on my mind, and that's what I'm praying for in this time. So I think that's a fair extra comment to make.